London Reels. Way better idea. Sponsored by Xbrain. Every day I come into the studio, there's literally a million things to do. Whether it's booking a guest, taping a show, editing an episode, or trying to pitch that future sponsor. It's hard to know where to begin. So I took a tip from Martin Bjerregaard, our former guest, and I create a today list. It's not a to-do list, but it's those 3 things that you want to get done today. The ones you've been putting off, the phone calls you know you have to make. I focus on those, and I usually find I have a productive one. I hope that works for you. Today's Way Better Idea is brought to you by the guys at Xbrain. If you want to check out their grass-fed, free-range protein powder, you can go to xbrain.co.uk or click on the link below and get 15% off. Use the code LondonReal. Peace! So people that don't know, what was the union? If you had to describe it in like a minute.
The union looks at the business behind prohibition and what drives it. And the interesting thing about the union is that we went into it totally not knowing a fucking thing about the industry. Like, we were just in BC. It was in the news all the time. Grow up us, grow up us. I had a lot of friends when I came back from New York that were now hugely successful, that had been growing weed. Right, and that's how the name the union came, is that was kind of the code name. I'd be like, dude, what the fuck is he doing? He's got a new truck, a new house, a boat, Harley? Fuck, I've only been gone for 2 years. And they're like, oh, dude, he's in the union. I'm like, which union? They pay really good. And he's like, he grows dope, man. And I was like, oh, fuck, that's a good business. And I actually looked at getting into it, into the grow business, because I was going to acting school and film school in New York, and all actors and filmmakers are broke. As you know, you're a fellow filmmaker. Well, no, you went through finance first. Yeah. But I was broke, so I was like, I could be one of the guys that buys a house. I could be the top of the pyramid, rent it out to a grower, and collect cash every 2 to 3 months, and then just go back to New York and put into my career. But then, like, my father just passed away, and I was like, no, I don't want to do that. So I felt him looking down on me, and I'd never broken the law like that before. So I was like, why don't I do a movie about it? Why don't I take what I've learned in New York and go into this? So we originally just went into the union wanting to look at an expose of this industry, because when I looked at getting into it, I'd learned that there's real estate agents that'll help you find a house that is perfectly a bi-level suite that you can splice the power. And then, well, what if the cash, what do you do? Don't worry. We got guys that'll hide the cash for you and set up LTD companies and put it in a way that there's certain place, and we got car dealerships that'll take cash payments, so you can just buy a truck outright, and you can go, there's this whole business around supporting people that were doing it.
And a whole economy that makes money.
So I was like, man, that's fascinating. I'm going to look into that, right? I'm going to do a film about that, because that's something I'd be interested in watching. But then as you go into it and you start interviewing like the former police chief of Seattle and Dr. Lester Grinspoon and all these people, and you look at how these policies came to be and how these things are where they are today and the influence the United States has on Canada, the film grew into something so much bigger. And as we kept learning these things, like as you should with a doc, real journalists, we're like, really? Nobody's ever died directly from pot? That has to be a mistake. That has to be some hippie comment. Let's take a look, right? And then you start looking, you're like, no, Surgeon General reports have no direct deaths from cannabis use. Like, not to say you didn't get high and there's been people drive into a tree, but there's a lot of other components in there. That's you getting into your car, but directly attributed to overdose of cannabis. So then we're like, man, I thought it was smart. I felt pretty dumb once we got in there. We didn't know anything. We're like, well, let's put this into the film. And then the film is now grown into this cult classic where it's kind of the go-to doc when people start arguing about the cannabis situation. People are like, oh, stop. Watch the union, then we'll have a rational discussion. But don't argue with me until you've learned some facts, right? Which is amazing. We never, ever thought getting into it that it'd become this piece it has today.
And the Canadian Parliament requested to have it played?
Because they had so many people emailing them. And they actually pay attention. Like when you go, what they don't pay attention to is ballots where you just get signatures or online things. That shit means nothing to them. But if you take the time to write a letter, they equate that to being worth, we had the breakdown from the MP's junior guy saying that he's like, we equate that to being worth 500 people, because there's probably 500 people that feel exactly the same way, but they won't take the time to write us. And he's like, we received hundreds and hundreds of letters about your movie, quoting your movie, like stats, this, you need to watch it, you need to look, this is what's going. So finally, justice critic Erwin Kotler, who used to be the attorney general under, which prime minister? I want to say Trudeau, or Chrétien. They invited us and said, fuck, just have these guys here. Let's screen it. We'll get senators and MPs to take a look. We have so many people asking. An interesting story with Erwin Kotler, the justice critic. When Chrétien was in, right before Chrétien left his term, he tried to put in a bill to decriminalize or legalize marijuana. And Erwin Kotler's son, or Erwin Kotler forwarded with him, was and was trying to push the bill through, but Kretchen was on his way out, so it lost all power and it sank. But Erwin Cotler's son got really pissed at him. And he was like, Dad, I can't believe that you helped try to push this through. He's like, haven't you seen what marijuana does? Like, it kills people. It's a gateway drug. It's this. It ruins brain cells. And Erwin's like, I don't think it really does all that. I think, you know, and we're looking at different... And he was really mad at his dad. And then when the new one came that they were trying to... When they were looking at revamping the policy, they're going to have a discussion in Canada. And then he looked at doing this. It was his son that said, Dad... He's like, what, are you mad at me again? Because now I'm re-looking at the marijuana situation. He's like, no, actually, I've totally changed my mind. I watched this documentary called The Union. He's like, you need to, and he's like, we keep getting emails about this thing. You are now talking about it. He's like, no, that totally changed my perspective. I have a whole new outlook on it now, which, you know, when we finished the film, we thought that it could help educate people. But you never like to think that our film will be the one that'll change minds, right? Like, we thought deep down, we're like, it might change a few minds, might get people to open, you know, at least go look for more knowledge on it. And then to hear that from some of the country's leaders, that he's like, he pulled us aside at the screen. He's like, your movie is what changed my son's point of view. He was mad at me. And now he was like, you have to watch this movie. And he's like, I'm just going to invite them there. So he's like, I had to come shake your hand and tell you, sorry I didn't get to watch all of it. I had to step out to go vote on some bills. But I mean, that was just really seeing what this new world of technology and spreading out through the internet, because it's not just the movie. The reason why The Union was successful is because the internet was able to carry it like it was, like you couldn't do 20 years ago.
Okay.
If we would have made The Union 20 years ago, no one would know about it.
So via word of mouth, not via YouTube per se, but just through people talking to other people?
No, YouTube too, because we didn't get a distribution deal for 2 years after it was done. It sat.
Okay.
But it leaked. Of course it did. It was all over the internet.
Oh, the people had uploaded.
Yeah,
these.
all over.
So what year did you finish shooting?
We finished in 2007, did our film festival run in 2007.
Right.
It aired on Super Channel in 2008, and it got its DVD deal in 2009.
Right.
But all these people started, like, we knew it was on, and we didn't take it off because we're like we were worried about, like, I was $250,000 in the hole with my dad, and I'm like, oh, like, I need some way to pay him back.
And that can kill a distribution deal if it's online.
It can, right?
Film festivals don't even like films to be online.
No, so it can be, but we'd already done tons of film, and that's where it leaked. There's actually people trying to sell, we have the film festival copy for $50, like, and I was like, of course they didn't say, we'd done 33 at that point, so fuck, which film festival copy did they have? Who knows? We'd sent out to so many. So, like, but at the same time, we're like, man, we had a lot of people writing us being, I never would have heard about your film if you hadn't had it online, and now I will support it as soon as it comes out. So, and it was interesting because we put it online in high res, because I was sick of all these shitty versions. Yeah. So I contacted, like, Top Documentary and all these people. I'm like, totally cool with you having it up there. Could you please just run this high? Because we spent a lot of time on our lighting and the way we had it. Like, that looks like shit. Can you at least? And they're like, oh yeah, so cool. You're not, like, mad at me trying to get it. I'm like, no, if you're going to play it, just play the good copy, please. Here's the highest res we can get on YouTube. And then we put a note just on our YouTube, like, hey guys, we understand it's a tough time for the economy around the world. It's not like it was, 10 years ago. If you can afford, if you enjoy the movie and you want to support it, please go buy it off Amazon afterwards. If you can't, we totally get it. Forward it to somebody else and maybe they can afford to.
This week, London Real meets UFC fighter Dan Hardy.
I'm not an athlete, I'm a fighter that's trying to be a martial artist.
His wins and his losses.
That's it, I'm done. I'm not enjoying it anymore. This is not fun for me anymore. I'm not getting anything out of it, I'm just getting damaged.
He talks the spirit world.
The thing is, like, ayahuasca doesn't necessarily do anything to change the person. It just helps the person understand who they are.
And introduces the wolf heart.
They want to feed the wires into my heart so they can measure the second heartbeat. So they can then burn it.
This Sunday, London Real presents Dan Hardy, Uncut.
Every subject's on the table, so feel free to ask away.